What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late Monday afternoon. We've been to the locker room. We've talked to Mike McCarthy. We've heard from the coordinators. And now we want to hear from you fine folks, the people who live and die with the team. A lot of dying probably lately with their performance the last 2 weeks. But, yeah, the Packers wrapping things up here at Lambeau, getting ready to hit the old road for the bye week. Other than Brett Hundley, who did say he's sticking around here and will most likely be working with some coaches throughout his time in Green Bay. Tim, hello. Hello, Ron from Pennsylvania. How you doing? Packers offensive line looked rusty pass blocking. Yeah, Wayne, in some certain parts, definitely. I was just watching the game again, the coach's tape, and I saw a couple times where Bakhtiari gets bowled over, and in situations he usually is pretty stout in. You got to think, nearly a month off, that's going to show up. And McCarthy did mention, actually, there were a couple play action passes where Hundley, perfect footwork, drop back is great, and then they have protection issues up front, causing him to bail and having to scramble. So, it all works in concert, and those things definitely show up when they go awry, so to speak. Hi from California. How are you? Thoughts on the season unfolding going into the bye week? Frank, I think it's hard to get a handle on a team that's 4-3, but obviously is now having to come to grips with life after losing their franchise quarterback, most likely for the season. I think what you saw yesterday from McCarthy and company when it comes to Brett Hundley was very much a dipping of a toe into water, whereas going forward they are going to need to let him swim a little bit. They did some things where, going back and watching the game again and watching the All-22, you see, there are number of occasions where they do call some downfield stuff, but nobody's open or available, and clearly Hundley's not going to force a ball in there, especially in a game that's close. For a lot of the time, right up until about the middle of the fourth quarter, that was a one-score game that they were in. So there was no need for Hundley to try and force things in there. So, as frustrating as it probably was to watch, it's hard to kind of fault Hundley for not trying to take more shots down the field. It's not Hundley, it's the defense, says Joe. Yes and no. I mean, they gave up over 500 yards, 26 points. That's not a great day at the office. But at the same time, they did have 2 turnovers in the game early on that the offense couldn't capitalize on. And I got to think, especially down the stretch there in the fourth quarter when it all kind of fell apart, they were on the field for an awfully long time. The offense couldn't sustain anything. When you're not picking up third downs, you're going 3 and out a lot. Your defense is back out there, and I thought you saw that kind of manifest itself in the fourth quarter. It's a defense that was just on the field way too much. Can we start calling this a lost season? Trevor, absolutely not. Way too early for that. A lot of season left. Would you play Callahan late in the season if our playoff hopes are gone? My initial thought is no, but it really depends on how Hundley looks. I don't think we really know much of anything yet when it comes to Brett Hundley. I do think maybe they play Callahan if Hundley is deemed ineffective over the course of maybe like a month. But even then, I don't see that happening. They've put a lot into Hundley, and they have to try and make it work. Or the plays coach might call holding Hundley back. I don't think so. I think there were a lot of problems, and I think Mike was smart to try and ride his running game. I've seen a bunch of comments already about the play calling, and I get it. I get that the conservative nature of things, such as they appear, probably frustrates some people. But look, you've got a guy making his first NFL start. You've got a rookie running back who is now into his 4th or 5th game, who's clearly productive and clearly your best offensive weapon. I think you give him the football, and I think it was smart to do so. Like I said, that's a one-score game right up until the middle of the fourth quarter. So it's not like they were blown out. It's not like they were dominated. McCarthy was conservative, there's no doubt about it, overall in his game plan, but I don't think that's that crazy. You think they turn Hundley loose after the bye? I get this question a lot. I don't know. I guess it depends on your definition of loose, Do I think they're going to push the ball downfield more? No. I do think they'll try and create some more opportunities for guys like Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson to maybe get the ball in space a little bit more. They did it a few times. One swing pass in particular with Cobb that I just put up on my Twitter account but for the most part, those guys were forgotten guys yesterday, and this is an offense that's been centered around those wide receivers for a long time. So I don't think you're ever going to see all of a sudden it turn into this, spread attack where they're pushing the ball downfield 15, 20 yards. I don't think that's ever going to be this offense with Brett Hundley at the helm. I think it's going to be much more centered around the running game and trying to create opportunities to get the guys in the space, ball in their hand, and make things happen after the catch. But I don't ever see Hundley being asked to, operate an offense where they want to push the ball downfield the way they did with Aaron Rodgers. Can't blame the defense when they are out on the field all day. That's what I was just talking about. Most successful drive outside of Jones' heroic running was McCarthy's creative play calls. I thought the drive, I actually just told someone, I thought the drive that ended in Hundley's touchdown run, that drive had everything. And I think that drive in particular, they came out in 5 wide and they completed a short pass out to the right. They mixed up the run and the pass. And there was the shot play, which didn't connect, but Jordy was open for a bit. It had something of kind of everything, and I think that's kind of how they have to approach it. Much more so than the run on first down, run on second down, get behind the sticks, and then, have to punt because you can't convert third and long. I think that's what most people are probably reacting to when they talk about the play calling, the game plan, etc., being too conservative. And again, I get it. I get that frustration, but I also get why McCarthy kind of did what he did in that regard. Aaron Jones has got to be the number 1 running back now, right? Brandon, I don't think there's any question. I know McCarthy gave Montgomery props today, calling him a great football player, and I think he is an asset to the offense. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but I also think there's zero doubt that Aaron Jones is the number 1 running back. Is it a lack of preparation that has led to the losses? I don't think so. Obviously, I'm not inside, so I can't tell you 100%, but I don't get the sense that they're not prepared. They haven't executed very well these last 2 weeks, but especially this week. With all the focus on a new quarterback and trying to make things, you try and figure things out as well as they can for a new starting quarterback, I can't imagine that a lack of preparation was a problem. What's up with HaHa? He's been quiet. Mike, I'll go further than he's been quiet. He's been pretty bad. He was really pretty bad yesterday. And that kind of continues the theme for his play all year. He has been definitely a disappointment. I don't think there's any way that you can't sugarcoat it. His tape is not great. And whether it's him turning down tackles, taking bad angles, it's just always being a step late on things. And maybe it is what Dom Capers was talking about today in regards to having more responsibility with Morgan Burnett out because he's being asked to be the defensive communicator and get guys lined up and call the plays, etc. But his poor play preceded that responsibility. It preceded Morgan Burnett going out. So I don't really know that that's the answer. But for whatever reason, his play has definitely taken a step back. And I can't see, they swear blind. He swears blind that he's healthy. The Packers say he's healthy. So you can't pin it on injury. But something is definitely off. Can we win 6 games without Rodgers? Yes. Will they? I don't know. First Rollins and Randall, now HaHa regressing kind of stinks. That's life in the NFL right there. We see Kendricks play more over Bennett. Nick, I doubt it just because Bennett's a much better blocker. And I know he's been rolled over once or twice in his last couple weeks. But, yeah, you go down in and down out. You go through the tape. It's not even a question. You saw it a number of times yesterday where he was kept in to help a young rookie, not a rookie, but a first-time starting quarterback. It's just going to be the book. And I understand, Kendricks obviously brings a little bit more downfield presence, ability. He can absolutely run in a way that Bennett can't. But, as long as there's a circumstance of the quarterback, I don't see him taking over full time. Maybe they use more two tight end stuff. They opened with a lot of 2 tight end yesterday, and then they went away from it, and then they brought Richard Rodgers in for a bit, and then they went away from that as well. Surprised they put Whitehead on the active roster, not Beagle? Not necessarily. Beagle was never going to step in and play right away, and the guy had 0 practice. He missed all of training camp, and most of the offseason work as well. So Yeah, it's not surprising to me. They have 21 days from the day he first practices, so I would suspect probably next week they activate him. But it's not surprising that they didn't activate him right away. Thoughts on Cobb's regression even before Aaron went down? What you talking about, TJ? Cobb was fantastic before Aaron went down. I don't know what games are you looking at, buddy. He had the down year last year, and then he got hurt, and he came out this year, and he was fantastic. The first 3 games, I think he was the highest. He had the most targets on the team and the most catches. I don't understand that one. Is Tony Mull a top back? Oh, lineman. Nice, Christopher. You always come with the old school references. I like it. We don't need more safeties on the roster. Well, it depends on what they have injury wise. I mean, you got Morgan Burnett going down, and probably looks like the hamstring could linger for a while. And like you just said, Clinton Dix has regressed a little bit. So I get the idea of just sign a grocery list of positions, but Whitehead has been on the practice squad and knows everything and can help them on special teams, which is what I suspect is the reason he's up. Did you find anything with Montravius Adams? No, I did not, and I forgot to ask. I'm so pissed at myself. I remembered after the press conferences. I got to start writing down my list. I got all my other questions out, but I forgot about that one. Does Aaron's relax theory apply here? I think somewhat. It's still very early in the season. They still have a winning record. Now, they got to get it figured out on offense, and they got to get healthy. 2 things that the bye week should help, but I definitely don't say it's time to panic. Let's see. Definitely need as many safeties as possible. Control Bryce gets hurt every game. Bryce does go out quite a little bit. He misses a lot of tackles, too. Was it HaHa's fault 10 people on the run, on the TD run where they had 10 people? I want to say yes, because if you're the communicator and your job is to get people lined up and get the call in, you would think you would see that. Capers kind of played it off as just a confusion of the moment kind of thing, but it's your continual substitution patterns that cause the confusion there. I asked McCarthy about playing with 10 men here yesterday and then having to burn a timeout on defensive substitution, and then coupled with the fact that they let a 25-yard run happen against Zeke Elliott a couple weeks ago because they had 10 men on the field. I asked him if Capers needs to simplify things a little bit, and McCarthy deflected and said basically the communication was nowhere near what it needed to be yesterday. And that's obvious, but at some point, don't you have to fix that? I mean, and if it is a question of Clinton Dix maybe being overwhelmed with the responsibility, why not go back to Martinez, who's playing as many snaps as anyone and playing at a high level, and did it last year when he was a rookie? I don't know. More vanilla for Capers? I don't know, we'll see. Can we bring Kaepernick in as a backup? They could. Are they going to? I highly doubt it. They're a draft and develop team. They're not a team that's going to go out and sign a free agent quarterback. Bring back Ed Donatel. Now I know things are bad. Why do you think they bring? Who do you think they bring back from injury reserve? I don't know. If I had any idea as far as like where guys were health wise, I'd be able to give you an answer. But just off the top of my head, I would say Don Barclay is probably the prime candidate. But who knows? It seems like Clay is feeling like he has to try to do everything. I hear what you're saying there, Courtney. I think he's played at a pretty damn high level this year. He got washed inside once on a big run yesterday that I remember, but for the most part, he's been really solid. And he's never going to be the guy he was at the start of his career, where he's putting up 2 or 3 sacks a game and making highlight, ESPN type highlight catches or plays. But he's played really well. And maybe there is a bit of a feeling that he has to do a lot. But, that's what he's paid to do. He's one of the highest paid guys on the team. You should want to do a lot, You're the top of your salary cap has to produce. And that's what he's paid to do. Will 12 be back in Green Bay while on IR? Matt, I think so. I think he'll be back next week, but we'll see. No inside knowledge there, but I guess that's the sense I get. Rodgers coming back if he throws in 6 weeks. I mean, I'd just be guessing. My hunch all along has been that he's done for the year, regardless of what happens. There's so many things that have to fall perfectly for him to even have a chance to come back this season. I don't see it, but we've been surprised before. Will McCarthy take the training wheels off Hundley after the bye? Yes and no. I think he will open things up a little bit. I don't think he's ever going to make this the spread passing attack we're used to with Rodgers at the helm. I think he may, quote-unquote, throw the ball more, but I don't think there'll be a whole lot of, the deep developing routes that we see with Rodgers under center. I do think you'll see maybe a more liberal use of the passing game on first down, because McCarthy can get a little predictable there with his first and second down run calls. But we'll see. Can Rodgers be at the game? Absolutely, if he chooses to be. I had surgery today, so I asked my doctor, come back in 6 weeks. He said no. All right. Why is Montrevious Adams? I don't know why Montrevious Adams isn't active. I don't know, and I forgot to ask today, and I'm kicking myself. I'm so sorry. Why did Mike praise practice last week, but then criticize it this week? Well, if you were listening, he circled back on that. He said that the practice prior to the Minnesota game was poor, and he told the team it was going to come back to bite them, and it did. But then he did say they practiced very well last week, leading up to the Saints game, but they still played poorly on Sunday. So, usually when coaches say, we had our best week of practice, that's all well and good, but, you're not doing much in those practices. They're still against air for the most part. You're not hitting, you're not tackling, you're not even going live speed. So it's hard for me to read into that meaning much of it, too much. Where is Vince Beagle? He is on, he's practicing, but he's not on the 53-man roster yet because he was on the physically unable to perform list. Once they started practicing him, they take him off the PUP and start practicing him, which they did last week. They now have, from that point, 21 days to decide whether to place him on the 53-man roster or to place him back on injured reserve for the rest of the year. I think it's just a question of when they put him on the 53-man roster, because when they do that, they're going to have to make a corresponding move, taking someone off of it. So they'll take their time with that. But I do suspect that he will be most likely activated prior to the Lions game, but don't quote me on that. Are we going to win another game this year, Aaron? I'll tell you what. If the Packers... No, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to shave this beard until the Packers win a game. How's that? I don't know if they're going to win or not. I may look like ZZ Top by the end of the season, but I will not shave until the Packers win. Will Mike McCarthy, conservative game with 7, even thought it wasn't enough. Yeah, we've talked about it a bunch, but yeah, I think it'll be a little different. I think it'll be a little bit more creative, but I don't think you're going to see a ton of downfield throws or asking for a ton of downfield throws. That's just not Hundley's strength. I think you'll see a lot more intermediate stuff, maybe switching up, passing more on first downs, things of that nature, but I don't think you're ever going to see a wide open game from Brett Hundley. You think Randall is getting any better? I do, William, actually. And I know 2 of the 3 interceptions he's had in his last 3 weeks were nice tips that came right to him. You still got to catch him. The interception he had yesterday, he had great coverage, and it was a very poor throw from Breeze, but you got to catch it. And overall, I thought he's looked better. He's been in the slot a lot. I think he's played well there. He showed a willingness to tackle, which he always hasn't. At least yesterday he did, much more so than he did in the Minnesota game. I don't think he's ever going to be a great player, but I do think you're getting a little bit more out of him than you were at the beginning of the season. And I think possibly you can point to that benching against Chicago and the subsequent drama after. I'm not going to sit here and say he's totally different now, but it sure seems like he's gotten down to business a little bit more on the field. David, watch Belichick and you'll learn how to coach, to Mike McCarthy. Is that the same Belichick that he beat when they were in Lambeau? Just wondering. Can we learn to cover wide receivers in the middle of the field? Dusty, don't hold your breath, man. That has been the weak point for this defensive scheme since Dick LeBeau and Dom Capers came up with it 100 years ago. Does the bye week help the Pack? Yes, Henry. He's the only defensive back to demonstrate all skills, says Mike. I don't know. I think Kevin King's demonstrated pretty much every skill you need at the position. Is this possibly the last season for Capers if we continue to look flat on D? Too early to say, but I will tell you, if, I guess, I'd be coming off the last year, and I know a lot of people pointed to the personnel being an issue. But he's been given a lot of young, exciting, I'm not going to say playmakers, but, athletes who should be helping this defense. Josh Jones played about 70% of the snaps yesterday, and he looked, I'm not going to say lost. I'll say pedestrian. Now, he's a rookie, and, he's going up against one of the best offenses, one of the best offensive minds in the league in Sean Payton, with Drew Brees pulling the trigger. That's no easy task, but Josh Jones had a lot of opportunities on some of those screens to make a play, knife through the blocking, and go stop the ball carrier, where he just didn't. He just did not look great in those situations. Sorry, getting texts. Witt greater than Capers? Oh, man, I don't know. That's impossible to say. Opinion on King? I think he's a really good young player. I think he got caught a couple of bad spots yesterday. He got beat a couple times. But for the most part, you look at his body of work throughout the season, I think he's had a really strong rookie campaign so far. He's been much better in run support than I ever thought he would be. But yeah, overall, I think he's held up well and is on his way to being easily their number one corner. It's time for Jim Schwartz. Oh, Kevin, don't wish that upon me, please. Will Larry King be the announcer this week? What? Pack could save some money signing me to play zone and give up 7 yards each pass. They could, Christopher. Would you intercept the ball when it's thrown to you, the way Devon House did? I doubt it. Why not switch to a 4-3? Yeah, Chase, people have been asking that forever. Because Dom Capers is your coordinator, and he's never coached a 4-3 defense in his life. Ted Thompson out after this season? I don't think so, Michael. His contract is through the 2018 draft, and Mark Murphy has made it very clear that Ted can stick around for as long as he wants. I'll go one further for you and make you have a real fun bye week. I'll bet they sign Thompson to an extension. Have fun. I'm being misconstrued. My fault. Typos. King is in his way. I agree. Some drama going on in the comments, apparently, that I'm not aware of. Beef stew or chili? Oh, Neil, I am so hungry. Beef stew, for me anyway. Elliot Wolf should be the Packers GM ASAP. Why do you say that, Adam? I mean, it's hard to say with any kind of certainty what kind of GM Elliot Wolf is going to be. We've never seen him make decisions. We don't know. We don't know anything about him. Well, it looks like Dom has never coached a 3-4. Well, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. How many losses to see another quarterback trying to win a game? I don't know, Jerry. Depends on how the quarterback plays in said games. Tie back to wide receiver? No, Peter, I don't think so. They'll use him as a change of pace, kind of an offensive matchup, third down type. But, I don't think they're going to be putting him back at wide receiver. Favre and Rodgers have carried McCarthy. See, I love comments like that because it totally either on purpose misremembers the fact that Favre was horrific at the end of the Sherman tenure, and McCarthy completely rehabilitated his game. And then it also misremembers or omits on purpose the fact that Rodgers looked downright terrible his first 2 summers in Green Bay, and Mike McCarthy made him into the quarterback that you see today. And I don't care what caveats you throw at me, how you want to spin it, you can talk to your blue in the face. Those are the facts as they are in life. McCarthy absolutely turned Favre back around, made Rodgers into who he is. Now, Rodgers has played at an insanely high level. And yes, he has won a lot of games. There have certainly been games where he's won in spite of McCarthy. He's led the team down and scored touchdowns, etc. No doubt about it. He is an incredibly talented player, and he's a big, humongous, monstrous reason for all of their success. There's no doubt about that. I had one person in this building last summer when I was here for camp say point blank, if it wasn't for Aaron, we all would have been fired a long time ago. No doubt about it. But you cannot dismiss where Rodgers was and then fast forward to now, to the MVP level type quarterback that Rodgers is, and say it just happened because of Aaron Rodgers. That's absolutely false. It happened primarily because of Mike McCarthy, but also because of Tom Clements and now Alex Van Pelt. He's a young, bright mind who they should promote to GM because Ted Thompson's draft and develop thought process isn't working. Well, Ted Thompson signed a bunch of free agents this offseason. I thought that's what everyone wanted. Can't have it both ways. Sign Cap. Do not give up on the season. Bruce, how do you know signing Kaepernick wouldn't be giving up on the season? You bring him in, you're going to have to teach him the offense. He's never played in McCarthy's system before. You're going to have to you're basically giving up 3 weeks bringing in Kaepernick, knowing he's not going to play right away. So you're going to have to play Hundley regardless. And it's a team that's, I say it again and again and again, it's a draft and develop team. They drafted Hundley, they've developed him, now they're going to play him because this is exactly why he's here. They are not giving up on the season. Just because they don't go out and make a splash move doesn't mean that they've punted on the year. So shouldn't Hundley be better, given your argument? Well, depends on what he's asked to do, right? If the ideal was run the football, call occasional shots, and you tell your young quarterback who's making his first NFL start, do not, under any circumstances, try to squeeze it in tight coverage. Don't go for a ball or don't go for a shot, downfield where you feel that there's a possibility you get intercepted. Take care of the football. No matter what, priority number one. Hundley did the job. It was 16-14 at one point in the fourth quarter. They had every opportunity to win that game. Now, I know a lot of people want to let him loose, quote unquote, and that may be, next in the development of Brett Hundley. But it's hard to say how good Brett Hundley is when you've got things happening around him that aren't helping him, such as they have this great running game with Aaron Jones. They set up play action perfectly, and then they have trouble with pass protection when Hundley's going back to try and take a shot. It's things like that. So. And Hundley's strengths certainly don't seem to be pushing the ball downfield. He said point blank yesterday after the game that they concentrated on the run game from the quarterback spot all week. And here's my other thing, and I'm gonna end here and I'm gonna leave you guys with this. And I said this on Twitter last night. And it's just something to think about. Pertaining to this question: should Hundley be better? Mike McCarthy came out immediately after the Minnesota Vikings game and said, I have 3 years invested in Brett Hundley. He's my quarterback. He said the same thing Monday after that game when we got back here. And then when the Kaepernick question came up, we all remember he kind of let loose on the reporter who asked it, saying, did you not just hear what I said? I've got 3 years invested in Brett Hundley. So he's been very adamant and very vocal about having 3 years invested in Brett Hundley. Now, what does it say that he then turned around and produced a game plan meant to, for the most part, hide his quarterback? This quarterback that he has 3 years invested in. And I know lots of people say he's being conservative. Whereas I would turn around and say, well, maybe McCarthy knows that the type of quarterback Hundley is, and that quarterback is not a guy who's going to make a lot of big-time downfield throws. It's just not who he is. Maybe he knows, he ran a lot of read option there at UCLA. He's a runner first and a thrower second, and that's who he's been given. And there are going to be other things. We saw him get a guy off sides. Got A.J. Klein there early, took a shot downfield. That was Rodgers-esque. But those moments are going to be few and far between. I tend to think, the more I look at yesterday's game, maybe that's just who Hundley is. And Mike's doing the best he can with what he's got. Just something to think about. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I'll be back Wednesday and Thursday this week. I'll be off tomorrow here on the old Facebook. But in the meantime, make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. And I'll see you soon. Thanks a lot, everyone.